Hey guys, welcome back to Her Hive. So excited to be back this week. Flying solo, Dolly is out, but I'm so excited because we are joined by a wonderful guest. So I'm going to go ahead and have her introduce herself.
Hey y'all, hey. I'm very happy to be on Her Hive. I was so excited when y'all reached out to me. This is actually my first podcast, so if I get more into doing this, I started here on Her Hive.
Okay.
But I am Dr. Kourtney Bell. I am originally from Petersburg, but I live here in the DMV area now. I'm a clinical therapist working with adults in mental health. So mostly on my socials, I'm known for promoting health, wellness, fitness, and lifestyle. You may see me one day talking about mental health. You may see me the next day doing my hair routine.
Okay. So it's a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything. Definitely more on the lifestyle side. Okay. So I'm all about taking care of yourself, and I ride hard for self-care.
Okay. That is really great. We're so excited to have you.
Yes.
So part of the conversations that we wanted to have here on Her Hive are also like inner conversations and conversations to help us grow. So we wanted to bring in someone who not only is a professional, but is a friend, and we can just have a real conversation about mental health and, moving forward, things to think about, things like that. So we're going to get started. So, you're from Petersburg.
Yes, I'm from Petersburg, Virginia.
Okay, where is that in relation to, I don't know,
DC?
Yeah.
It's about DC. 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours away from DC. It's Virginia's capital is Richmond, Virginia. So Petersburg is about 25 minutes past Richmond.
Okay. Yeah. So kind of that area. And did you come to DC for school?
Yes, I originally went to undergrad in Northern Virginia. Went back home, completed my master's and my doctorate back home in Petersburg at Virginia State University.
Okay.
And then I actually had a pre-doc internship. Before I can finish and graduate, I have to do a pre-doc internship somewhere else. That ended up being actually in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So, yeah. And in the midst of that, at the time, all my family was here in either Baltimore or D.C. So I settled and stayed here in D.C.
And you liked it?
I loved it. I was always coming to D.C. anyway to like party, meet with friends, do whatever. So it was definitely the next place for me.
Fit, yeah. So once you got here, were you already in the field, or you said you were doing an internship?
So I was already in the field.
Okay.
When I went to the internship, I basically was working in an outpatient clinic in 2 primary care offices in Pennsylvania. So
So what made you decide? I don't know, y'all. We shot Tequila Talk before this, and we had a little moment in the office. So decide to get into the mental health field.
I don't know if I have like an exact answer. I know when I first went to school, like to college, I was actually a chemistry major.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, after my first semester, I quickly realized.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't like I was bad at it or anything, but it just wasn't for me.
I think I knew that about you. Because before I knew you were a therapist, for whatever reason, I thought you were a pharmacist.
Oh, yeah. I actually have a best friend who's a pharmacist, so probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's funny as you say that, because that was the field that I was going to go
into pharmacy. Yeah.
But I quickly realized that was not for me. Mental health, I took a psychology course, and that's kind of how I knew, like, this is more of my vibe. This is more of my speed. This feels more natural to me.
Okay.
And I do genuinely, as cliche as it sounds, I do like helping people. I was raised to help people in need, so it was more natural to me.
Okay. To think of it as more of like service that you're doing. Okay. So tell me about when you were first getting started in the field.
Oh, that was scary.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, like, so classes is, a piece of cake or whatever. You learn the material, you take the test, you pass, whatever you got to do. It was like my first field assignment and I think like my first week, I remember my first week in the counseling center, I had a student come in and they were suicidal.
Oh, that's the deep end.
Yeah, literally. So I was like, for real? The first week?
Yeah, that's...
like, you can wait till next week?
Yeah.
It had to be me?
Yeah.
But I will say, like, for me, I've always been a person where stuff has to happen like that for me.
Yeah.
It has to be pretty extreme so that I don't overthink it.
Yeah.
And I quickly, learn what I need to learn, do what I need to do. But it was definitely different from being in classes, learning coursework, and actually applying what you learned.
Right.
Fulfilling, but definitely difficult.
So outside of the suicidal case, which is like
extreme.
Can you tell us like another early moment where you felt like, okay, wow, I'm really enjoying this. I'm making a difference.
Yeah. It was on a college counseling center. That was my first assignment. And it was working with the women, the girls on campus. And just being in a position to advocate for them and uplift them. That's when I was like, okay, yeah, it's hard days, but this is the part that makes it worth it.
Makes it worth it. Yeah, for
and
sure.
not to mention women, but women that look like me.
Yeah.
So young Black women, entering adulthood, being able to advocate and just uplift them and help them through whatever experiences they had gone through or whatever mental health concerns they had. That's what made me be like, this is me.
Yeah. So have you seen, because I remember when I was growing up, like mental health kind of wasn't a thing-ish. Like you had awareness of like people on Prozac, and you would hear like the word like bipolar being thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, and then of course there's always been therapy, but it wasn't quite like it is now.
Right.
Did you have those thoughts when you were getting into the field, or how had things changed?
Yeah, I think beforehand, well, you're right, it wasn't much. You just see like the medication commercials during the daytime soap operas, and that was about it. Or people would only see mental health through the more extreme lenses of bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, or if you need to see a therapist, oh, you're crazy, right? It was definitely different, even for me learning more.
Yeah.
When I got into the field, like realizing like, oh, like people with mental health concerns have, they're high functioning. They have jobs. They lead lives. They have kids. People are going about their days every day with mental health concerns. So it was definitely different. Now to see the new generation, I know sometimes they get a lot of kickback because people say, oh, they're just saying it's a fad. It's this, that, and the third. My stance on that is it's still a conversation.
Okay.
So I think it's just the awareness as a whole is still beneficial. And I'm like, I'd rather them talk about it and perhaps be wrong, but go to therapy and get clarification. The thing is, they're still taking care of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we completely jumped. Hello. You're supposed to be reminding me of things in the order run of show. We jumped past our very first question that I was supposed to ask you. Sorry, Dara would be here. She would remind me. Our warm-up question is, and I'm going to find a way to loop this back in, but what is a girl's girl, and do you consider yourself a girl's girl?
I don't know if I have an exact definition for a girl's girl.
Okay.
I think for me, I guess an exact definition would just be a woman who love other women, no matter what. Like you have grace, you have compassion for women. I think that's a girl's girl. I definitely think that I am a girl's girl. The way that I will, I was just telling her beforehand, I was like, the way that I am so happy and I get overjoyed by good things happening to the women that I know or even women that I don't know. I'll cry in a second if something's good. But specifically for the people around me, I could not know someone but see it on social media or like I might find out something good happened for you or a good development happened for you, and I'm like, if it's happening to my neighbor, oh, it's in my neighborhood. So that's the vibes, that's the energy that I want around me. So I think, I don't know if I answered it, but I think I'm a girl's girl. I love advocating for women. I love protecting women where I can. So I would say that I am. And I love giving compliments to women. If I like, what you got on, how you look. You saw me as soon as someone just walked in. If I recognize you, I'm not somebody where if I follow you on social media, I'm not going to see you out in the function and pretend that I don't follow you.
I don't know who you are.
I'm actually trying to get to you so I can tell you, like, I actually follow you. So yeah, I love girls.
Okay, great. Thank you for answering that. So where we were talking about the shift in the field, and how like now things are seeming to be a bit more acceptable, more open, more honest. How do you feel about like the emergence of like wellness and self-care?
I love it.
Yeah. Okay.
I love it. I think I want everybody to indulge more in self-care, but I also want people to understand what self-care is.
Okay.
Which is, this is my definition. It's an intentional act that you're doing to specifically either improve your life or your health in any capacity.
Okay.
And when I say health, I mean that could be your physical health, that could be your mental health, that could be your spiritual or religious health. Yeah. Just whatever form that you need it in.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I love that's actually like a huge component of my therapy that I give to my clients. I tell them straight up in our first intake session, like, I'm going to hound you about self-care.
Okay, and what you're doing.
Because the things that you do outside of this conversation in this space plays a huge role in your mental health. So what you eat, what supplements you take, the people that you hang around, what you ingest, whether that is actual food or, commentary, chatter, all that stuff matters.
Yeah. How would you recommend, or what would you recommend to somebody who's trying to, like, as you said, incorporate a bit more of self-care in their routine, where they may feel like, well, self-care is just like going to the spa?
I guess really sometimes it is going to the spa. Like, if we want to keep it real, and especially as as women and as Black women, I know sometimes self-care is me. I need to put some clothes on, do my makeup real quick, and do my hair.
Yeah.
Because if I look good, I do feel better.
Yeah.
But I think really checking in and asking yourself, what do I need?
Okay.
Do I need to reconnect with, like, my roots, who I am? Do I need to go home and visit my family? Do I need time with my girlfriends? Do I need a girls' night? Just really taking a moment to be intentional about checking in with yourself.
That's really an interesting point. Like, taking some time to actually reflect with yourself on how you're feeling and what it is you can do about it. Because I think sometimes you'll get, like, super overwhelmed and you don't know where to start. And I think checking in with yourself is a good place to be like.
And when we get overwhelmed, it's easy. The easiest response to that most of the time is avoidance, right? So we go do something else.
Yeah.
That isn't really what we need.
Yeah.
Or we isolate.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want anybody to ask me. I'm not feeling like myself. I know it's going to be obvious. Let me stay to myself. So really taking a second to use even that isolation time to ask yourself, like, what is it that I need? What's bothering me?
Okay. So then when you're having these conversations with yourself and you can maybe, like, identify what it is that you need and what's bothering you, what would you say is a good place of, like, these thoughts that I'm having are overwhelming me, and these thoughts that I'm having I need, like, help for? Because I think that a lot of people, I see it all the time, and they were laughing about this on Tequila Talk, but, like, more so on Instagram, where you'll see, like, horoscope posts that are like memes, right? So like, I'm a Taurus, so ours are always about eating, overeating, sleeping, and overspending. So how do you know the line between, like, I'm just lazy or I'm, like, freaking depressed? Or, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, like, oh, I'm spending a whole day in bed and I'm just loving it, and, like, oh, I'm actually not, like,
I'm actually isolating.
I'm not able to get up out of bed.
The line in terms of depression, and this is clinical, this is like in the DSM, not to take it all clinical, but it's if you're you don't have interest in things that you usually have interest in, or you'd say you're in bed. And you know that usually if my friends hit me up and they say they're going here, or if it's this other thing that I know I would usually be like running to do, and I genuinely don't feel motivated to do it, that's when it's like, okay, that's not me. Something's different, something's off.
Something's off. And from there, it would be a good idea to engage professional help. Where do you start by getting professional help? Is it with your insurance company or?
Yeah. Many people don't know that, but Google. I always tell people go to Google first to see if there's any, what's in your area. But honestly, the quickest and the easiest is your insurance company. The good thing is now your insurance company allows you to go through a quick portal where you can, match for your area, your insurance, things like that. You can see the price of what your sessions would be. But there's also a ton of directories now that are available. So there's stuff like Open Path Collective. There's therapy for Black girls. A lot of men don't know there's therapy for Black men as well. So, and from there, I love therapy. I tell everybody to go to therapy for Black girls, because it's a platform where you can look through your insurance, you can look through the type of therapist you want, the type of therapy they offer, your particular issue. Like, it's just so tailored to the individual client that you're going to find somebody on there that you're going to be able to talk to and get something from. So that kind of actually, it always is like a question for me when you are a professional and then something happens. So as, like, you're a mental health professional, but obviously you're a woman, you're a human being, you have a life, you have a career, you have friends, you have family, things like that. How do you balance? Well, I'm a unique situation, I think, because I'm lucky to have like my closest knit friends are also therapists.
Oh, okay.
So that makes it easy for me, a little bit easier for me than the next person. But one thing that I always talk about too is, as therapists, it is hard to balance because people forget, we get taught to externalize this information.
Yeah, you just kind of take it, do what you need to do with it, and let it go.
Yeah, and it's for other people.
Yeah.
You know, we don't really get to think about how it is for me.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So like something's going on, I might know, like, oh yeah, I'm anxious, I'm depressed, and then I just barrel through it. Because I'm just like, that's just what happens when these situations occur. But yeah, I'm lucky where I have friends that will call me out on it. But for other people, I think it's definitely being intentional about those mindful practices, things like journaling, maybe meditation. For someone, if they like yoga, that's another space to be intentional and mindful. So having different practices, and for people, it may not be yoga, journaling, it could be something else, but having those different spaces where you know, okay, this is what keeps me balanced, this is what keeps me grounded.
Okay. That all sounds great. Sorry, I just have to check our notes really
you're
quickly. Fine. Yes. Okay. So something that, you know, comes up a lot, it seems to come up a lot, is like dating and your mental health, and how like dating can positively or negatively impact your mental health. So if you're in a dating situation when it's negatively impacting your mental health, what are some tips or ways to try and deal with that?
That's a good question. Because a lot of times in relationships, we want things to work.
Yeah.
So we'll endure more and we'll take more.
Yeah.
If it's not working, I think people honestly, and this is a therapy thing too, but practicing acceptance. Like being able to practice of radical acceptance where you're able to look at your situation without judgment, give it compassion, give it grace, and understand that if I look at this situation and I accept it for what it is, and I know, you know, it's not making me happy, I'm, you know, not feeling like myself, I know it's toxic, it doesn't feel good.
Okay.
I can look at that and I can accept that, and now you need to ask yourself, do I approve of it? Like, you know, do I disapprove or do I approve? In most cases, in a situation like that, the person will recognize, okay, I can accept this relationship for what it is. Now what do I need to do next based off of my level of approval or disapproval?
Right.
And they're not the same. Acceptance and approval are not the same.
Right. Acceptance and approval are not the same. Okay. Yeah, two different concepts, I guess. Yeah.
And you can, I think for people who are having difficulties in relationships, like I said, it gets tricky because I see clients all the time. I mean, I've even been through it on a personal level sometimes. You know, you want this thing that you feel like you've invested so much time in to work. Yeah. But if it doesn't feel right, if you feel, if you're on eggshells or the communication isn't there or this person doesn't care about your boundaries, it's not for you. It's not for you.
Why do we hold on still?
Because I think, and specifically, I don't want to put it on us girls.
Yes, on us ladies. But this is why we're here. We're here to talk about like the real things that happen. We still hold on.
We say things like, how many times do you hear people be like, I don't want to start over.
Yeah.
I don't want to go on a first date anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to ask somebody what their favorite color is.
Yeah.
And again, the time, I think as women or as people, actually as humans, when we invest a lot of time in something, it's really hard to let it go. But I need people to remember the time is borrowed, okay? The time we have is borrowed. It's not unlimited. So just because you haven't invested a certain amount of time in something doesn't mean you keep giving your time freely to something that isn't serving you.
Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully that answered the question.
That did answer the question. I think that was good. Okay. So where we were talking about how relationships can have an impact on your mental health and how sometimes you know you should get out, you don't get out. Sometimes, though, it be these niggas. And it's just, there's nothing you can do about it. There's a clip floating around of Cam Newton right now, and he was talking to, is she a therapist or is she a Dr. Brian? Oh, she's a doctor as well. About how he has 8 kids by 3 women. He still wants more. And he has no intention of being a husband to any of these women. But, you know, according to him, and not saying it's not true, but he takes great care of his kids. Right. Blah, blah, blah. How do you, when you are put in a tough it feels impossible situation with a wackadoo. What are you supposed to do? Because I just can't imagine like.
Yeah, like you thinking that you're in a loving relationship that has a future.
Yeah.
That has hope in the future, and then he tells you, "Oh, I actually fear divorce more than I fear than I have a I think he said I fear my fear of divorce.
No, I think he said my fear of divorce is less than my fear of marriage. I think that's what he said.
Okay.
Or maybe it was the opposite.
Yeah, his fear of divorce is higher than his desire to be married.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really understand what he's doing, but what I would say is he's on a platform, a huge platform, saying this. So whoever is, I think he does have someone who he's currently involved with.
I think so. The mother of his youngest child. Yeah.
Is,
for now,
you know, whatever story that you tell yourself, no, it's not true. It's not real.
Right.
It's a fairy tale and a fallacy. He has said what he said. He don't want to be married. That's literally what he said in so many words. He does not want to be married. You can't change him.
Yeah.
You can't convince him. You can't make him want to do it.
Yeah.
You can't give him 2 more babies.
That's the part. I'm just like, how much more of yourself are you supposed to give? But I guess everybody has their own line.
Yeah.
Of like when done is.
Yeah. And he's in a position where, you know, he's a pretty successful guy. Yeah. For some people, that may be, you know, well, if I'm going to have a kid, that's who I'd rather have a kid with. That's who I'd rather
have a baby with.
Not saying that was the case with them, but for some people that, you know, that may be enough.
Yeah.
But I think when it's like, when you're in a relationship with someone and the guy is a bit out there in terms of like, you know, he's serving himself. That's basically what the premise of.
Is that, okay, so this is something that I've always wanted to know. How do you feel like on Twitter, not even on Twitter, in real life when therapy words get thrown around, like narcissist?
Typically it's the narcissist calling other people narcissists. If I'm just gonna keep it real, if I'm supposed to keep it real. I'm just saying, when I see it on social media, the things that people describe, or even some people in, you know, in my orbit, in my personal life, who I see talk about it, I be like, it's you. The call is coming from inside of the house.
You're the narcissist. Wow. What? Yeah. Okay, so the word, I kind of feel like narcissist is a buzzword. Like, people say it, they throw it around, they slap it on other people, they slap it on behaviors. What does it mean exactly?
Narcissist is actually it's a personality disorder.
Oh, okay.
It's a narcissistic personality disorder.
So these are words mean things type of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, if people knew, they would know that it goes a lot that goes into being a narcissist. I think it's more appropriate to say maybe this person has narcissistic traits.
Okay.
You know, or you may be like, oh, they have a little narcissism flair. I see a little bit of, you know, overinflated sense of self, or, you know, they feel like they're God's best gift to this world.
Okay.
You know, those things like that.
Okay.
I think people do use the word and they'll be like, you know, someone might do something to them and they're like, oh, well, it's because he's a narcissist.
Yeah.
And yeah, he is looking out for himself.
Yeah.
He is, but it doesn't necessarily mean he is a narcissist.
Okay. Thank you for that.
No problem.
Yeah. Another burning question. So sometimes you're in therapy and you're talking and your therapist says something to you and you kind of feel like, are they BSing me right now? Are they being honest? Or like, so is it true? Are you able to be honest with us? Oh.
I don't lie. If you telling me the truth, because my thing also is tell that lady the truth.
Yeah, you're paying.
Yeah, like, to be real with me.
Yeah,
you don't come here and you don't pay me to appease me or make this experience seem like you're making progress. Or, like, this is costing you.
Yeah,
it is not my space. As I tell my clients, it's not my 50 minutes. It's your 50 minutes.
Yeah.
I even tell my clients, if you explain something to me and you see like I'm not getting it, you need to be like, wait a second, I don't think you get it. Because this is not for me. Now, I don't know if there's other people who lie, but I know me, I don't lie.
Are there ever times where a client tells you something and you know that they're lying? Or you can tell, like, there's a bit more to this story?
Yes.
Okay.
That happens a lot. And I try to probe, you know, to see if they get more. But sometimes people just don't tell you more. Or I will say sometimes people, depending on what they're talking about, sometimes people want to be validated. And so if they are feeling a way and they want to be validated, they'll hold back little details, little information sometimes.
Oh, to try and get not you on their side, but get you to say like, oh, I understand why you did that. Yeah. I understand why you said that.
Which isn't needed, because most of the time I can see both sides and I'll tell them, like, I can understand how this would impact you in this way. But, if we look at the whole situation, can you also see why maybe the other party may have acted in this way as well?
Yeah. Okay. What do you say to people who are like, oh, I don't need a therapist. My best friend's my therapist.
You are wearing your best friend out. You are wearing out. Is she going to be your best friend for long? No, I'm just playing.
Yeah.
But I think that people who say that most of the time, they're probably just, apprehensive or fearful about what they may uncover in a therapy space, because people's exposure to therapy sometimes is just what they see on TV.
Okay.
So they may see, like, you go to therapy and they ask you about your childhood, or ask you about some deep dark secret that you've been keeping to yourself. But what people don't actually realize is they are in the driving seat in therapy.
Okay.
Like specifically in the type of therapy that I do.
Okay.
Which is called CBT.
What's that?
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
Yeah, and the premise is there's like a triad between your thoughts, your feelings, and your behavior. They all impact one another. And our goal is, if we can change the way you think, we can change how you feel, and then we can change how maybe you may or may not be triggered in the situation again, or we can change how you respond to this situation or this circumstance, how you move or navigate something.
Okay.
So sometimes people think you go to therapy and I'm going to ask you about something that happened to you when you're 8 years old. You get to come to me and say, this is what I'm coming to therapy for. This is what I want to work on. This is what I want to process. I don't know anything about you, right? So you are literally in the driving seat.
Okay.
Every session I ask my clients, what's on the agenda?
Okay.
That's going to work towards what our treatment goals are.
Okay.
But we only working on what you need to work on.
Okay. Interesting. I'm trying to think of what other questions I have. I feel like I have like a full Q&A with a therapist, like everything.
What are your thoughts on therapy?
I think that, so I have personally had mixed experiences with therapy. And I think that maybe because I have not found a therapist that's a good fit. And I think that can maybe be, because I think sometimes when you're doing something, you're approaching something from like a medical perspective, not to say you take like the first opinion as opinion, but you kind of do. Like, you need a new OBGYN, you find one, on Google, they take your insurance and you go. How often does it occur to you like, oh, I think I want to switch, unless you've had a bad experience? And I think with therapy, it's kind of the same, where you go on Google, you might read some reviews, you find your insurance, but then it's like, as you said, you're meeting someone who, I think if people thought as therapy more of coaching, that would probably help a little bit.
Versus them like, this is my doctor, I have to go with them,
I'm stuck with them. I think also understanding that it may not be a good fit, that doesn't mean that it's not a good process.
Right.
Is something that kind of took me a while to learn. I also think that if you approach it, and again, something that I didn't do, if you approach it from a place of having some goals. So it not necessarily being so reactionary of like, my life is in crisis right now, not into the point that everything is on fire, but maybe more like, I don't have great coping skills.
Right.
Or I react to things really quickly, or I don't know the varying reason people come to therapy, or I've been through something and I'm having trouble moving on.
Right.
I think it can be really helpful. I do. I think you have to be open to the process. I think about the varying points in my life that I was in therapy. It was all for different reasons. Like, I remember one time it was like, we had like a family therapy once when my parents were going through divorce, and it was like the only reason we did it, I think, was because we were grown at the time, me and my sister. So I think it was just something on the calendar for us to all see each other once a week. Yeah. Like, physically see each other once a week, because we were all split up at that point. Or like, other times I did it, I don't know, just for other odd reasons. some reasons that made sense, sometimes that didn't. But like, I've always been a positive experience when the therapist has given homework or there's some tangible tools. The times that I did not like therapy was when I felt like I was talking for 15 minutes about my week. And it was just kind of a recap of what's going on, what's been up. That wasn't really helpful to me because I have friends.
Yeah, and you rather it be more solution focused, action based.
Yeah, like for me that's more helpful, especially if it's like I'm supposed to be getting something out of this process. Like, show me what I'm supposed to get. I think that's why I kind of like some of the self-help books a bit more, because they give you like tangible tools, where I feel like my experience in therapy has always just been like, let's just have a chat. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not paying you to like listen to me. I talk to myself. So like, I'm not an only child, but I'm older by a significant amount. I always had my own apartment. Like when I was in college, I had a single. I was an RA. I've lived by myself. So I talk to myself all the time. So like, I don't need to pay somebody to talk. I will talk this thing to death.
For your
party
yourself.
Of one. Yeah. Okay.
You're like, I've already processed it a couple of times.
Therapy question: how much talking to yourself is a normal amount, and how much is you're hearing voices and you need help?
Are you answering yourself?
What does that mean? Do I say like, oh, how are we feeling today? Today we feel good. Is that answering yourself?
Or no? I think you're probably just processing to yourself.
I think so.
It's giving very much eldest daughter energy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, as long as it's not like, there are times I really think like, this is pretty crazy. Like I'm in here really chatting and giggling and everything else. But some of my girlfriends who live alone say they do the same thing. Yeah. So yeah, but overall, I think that therapy can be really helpful. I really wish more people would give it a shot, especially if you don't like it at first. Like, I think being open to trying different therapists is also really important. Like,
shop around.
Yeah, I think finding that right match. And I think that's why when I wanted to ask you, like, where do you start with finding a therapist? And you mentioned those lists again, and we'll put that online in our chat or in our comment section. But getting started and knowing where to look, I think can be hard. And then the whole insurance game.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Therapy is expensive.
It is.
Sometimes I have clients and I'm like, when I see their deductible, I'm like, I understand. I probably wouldn't want to do this with this price. So it is difficult. Sometimes that's a huge barrier right there in itself. It's like, I want to get help, but it's expensive.
Yeah. Are there any resources? I heard here in PG County they're opening up like it's like a mental health emergency room.
Oh wow!
Where if you are in crisis, you can just walk in and be there. How would you, for people that may be experiencing crisis? Again, for me, my line is like, what is the line between normal talking to yourself and like schizophrenic talking to yourself? What is the line between I'm having a down moment and I'm in crisis right now and I need help?
I would say sometimes is, if you feel like you're at risk of harming yourself, or if you're honestly at a risk of harming someone else, that can be an indicator as well. Also, if you haven't slept in days, you haven't eaten in days, you're not taking care of yourself, those types of things. But many people don't realize you actually can just go to the emergency room.
Oh.
Like there is, I know it's really good that they have like a specific place now that they're getting ready to open, but we always tell clients, like, if something happens, just call 911.
Okay. Did not know that. I can see how, so calling 911 or going to the emergency room. Yeah, for sure. And we don't want, you hear in the news sometimes where you have these calls that are mental health calls and the police come instead. That's scary.
Yeah, that is very scary.
Yeah, so I would prefer, guys, please just go to the emergency
room.
Go
to the emergency room, for sure.
Yeah. So the question was, if you are in a place where you can't drive yourself or you're maybe witnessing something and you've had to want to call 911, what's like, not the coded language, but what are the words to say that they don't come in there like shooting?
I would specifically ask for an EMT.
Okay.
For one, like because you don't need a police officer.
To say you need ambulance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not want a police officer to come back. I'm always go to the hospital if you can get there, or call a friend or someone to see if they can take you. But I would go the EMT route. And this probably isn't the best advice, but maybe even stretching the truth a little bit, just so you can get to the hospital safe and sound. And then once you're there, they're going to give you an assessment. They're going to assess you for everything. So when it gets to the mental health part, be truthful there, or just now you're in a hospital, you can say whatever you want to say.
Do what you want.
But you're right, as people of color specifically, calling 911 may not seem or feel like the safest route most of the time. I won't even say all the time, but most of the time.
Well, we touched on this a little earlier about you being a girl's girl, and I think through this conversation you have really shown that, like, you show up for the girls, you're here for the girls, especially the Black and brown women. What would you want them to know about self-care, wellness, and therapy?
It's always worth it. I think self-care, like I said, it's an intentional act for you. When you're doing so much for others, you have to make sure that you're filling your own cup. And sometimes it's easier to give and give and give and give and give. And we feel good when we're giving. We feel good when we feel like we're doing for others. We're there for other people.
Right.
But what do you have to give if you don't, check in with yourself first? And I always tell myself, if I don't want to do something, or something I don't feel up to something, most of the time I'll ask myself, if I do this thing, at what cost would it be to me?
Right.
And that's usually a good determining factor of whether or not I'm going to do something.
At what cost to me? Okay.
And as far as self-care, I don't know what to say besides it's always worth it. It's literally always worth it.
Yay! Well, Dr. Kourtney, I was so happy to have you.
Thank you so much. So much.
Let the people know where they can find you. Any last minute thoughts?
Yes, thank you so much, Hive, for having me. I really appreciate it. You can find me at _Mochahannes on Instagram. You also can find 2 of my businesses on Instagram at Be Accountable with Court. That's Court with the K, and at sista.docs.
Okay, well, you can't just like throw out businesses and not like talk about it a little bit. So let's get into.
Be Accountable is literally just a self-motivating brand. It's literally like affirmation apparel is like how I like to describe it. Be Accountable started as me just holding myself accountable and making sure I got in the gym. And after a while, it really became like my mantra. Like no matter what, I need to take care of myself, be accountable. If I'm going to be reputable or have a good reputation with anybody, it needs to be myself first. So that's where Be Accountable came from. So if you just need daily motivation with fitness and just being the best you, that's a good page to follow. And then the Sister Docs is a lifestyle and mental health collective with a couple of my doctor sisters that we came together and we kind of made this brand to originally uplift other students in our field, but now it's more so of a lifestyle brand advocating for mental health and wellness. So follow us at Sista, that's SISTA.docs. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, guys. Please make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel and follow us on social media. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We are so excited. Oh, and also we have a jot form, Ask Her Hive, where you can talk to Dira and I, ask us your questions, comments, concern, whatever. We love to hear from you. So talk to you soon. Bye.